Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla, and in today's video we are starting a challenge where I will play a bunch of sad games until I find one that makes me sob. I've played games before that have made me tear up a bit, but I've never played one that just full out tears. Like I couldn't stop them from coming, and I want that from me. So I went online and I went on like blogs and Reddits and Twitter, and I found lists of games that like people tried when they played, and I picked some that were on multiple lists. I also picked some that were rather short and not stressful because don't want to cry from frustration. I want to cry from like feelings. So I have 5 that we're gonna try for this video, and we're gonna see. So the first one I have is The Last Campfire, which is about 6 hours long. Old Man's Journey, which is about 1.5 hours long. What Remains of Edith Finch, which is 2.5 hours long. These are approximately according to Google. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. This is about 3 hours long. This one was on a lot of lists, so yeah. And then To the Moon, which is 4 hours long, and this one was on every single list, so I'm kind of scared to play that one, to be honest. But let's see if any of these will make me cry. And let's go. Let's start with The Last Campfire. The Last Campfire is a puzzle adventure game where you play as a lost ember searching for meaning and a way home. You explore different areas looking for other embers who have become forlorn. These embers lost hope and become stuck. They turn into little stones. You solve puzzles to bring a flame back to them and save them. There's a big campfire in each of the areas where the saved embers are with a guide that is going to help them. The game is visually stunning. I played this game first because out of all of them, I think it's going to be the least likely to make me cry since it is a puzzle game and you spend most of the time just solving puzzles. So let's find out. So I just finished The Last Campfire, and unfortunately no tears were shed. But it was a really good game, and I'm going to talk about it some more tomorrow morning because it's late right now. I miss my Christmas lights. Okay, so it is a new day. Let's talk about The Last Campfire. And unfortunately, I didn't cry when I finished the game, and I also didn't cry at any point during it either. So that's kind of sucks. But it was a beautiful game, and as a puzzle game, I really loved it. It was great. I would definitely recommend it. Probably one of the best puzzle games I have played. And I love puzzle games, so I played quite a few. Some of the puzzles were really easy, but then there were some that were very challenging, and I couldn't solve it without getting help. I would try not to get too much help because I love thinking about the puzzles, but it was a lot. According to Steam, I finished the game in 6.3 hours. And I got all the achievements, but I love when a game gives you all the achievements just for like playing it in order of the story. So all of them were gone by the time I finished the game, so that was great. 100%ed it in no time. I also really liked that it had a voiceover for everything, so like if you want to stream it or play with someone watching, it's great because you don't have to be reading it out loud and getting your voice tired out. Now, if you're looking for a game that's gonna make you sob, this was not it. This is not it. I feel like there were parts where it looked like it would be really sad, but nothing really sad happens. I was kind of waiting for the end to be like something really tragic, and it wasn't really that at all. Do I understand why others cried? I can see if you're someone who struggles with thinking about like the meaning of life, and if like everything is pointless, I can see where at the end of the game you might cry, but I feel like it ended in a more hopeful sense, maybe. I'm not trying to spoil it. I wouldn't say it was hopeful, but we're just gonna leave it at that. For the most part, you do spend the majority of the game solving puzzles to find the embers for the lost forlorns, so you wouldn't have a lot of moments where like you would get emotional and cry necessarily, but at the end I could see where you would shed a few tears. Overall, it's not really a sad game. It's more of a cute puzzle game with a story. We're gonna go with that. Okay, let's try out the next game. Old Man's Journey is a puzzle adventure game that tells a story of life, loss, and hope. Description on Steam says, experience heartache and hope as you embark on a heartfelt journey through a sun-kissed world. The puzzles involve changing the hilly landscape to create paths for the old man to move forward. As you move through the game, you unlock memories from the old man's past and learn about his life and the reason for his journey. So, I just finished Old Man's Journey, and again, no tears. This game is beautiful, and I don't mean it just visually. I feel like it's very artistic. As we relive the memories of the old man, the game gets sadder and sadder, and not only is the story getting sadder, you can visually see it as well. The colors start off really bright and almost neon, and then they get duller as the story progresses. But then also the weather, it starts off sunny and really bright, and then it gets stormy and it rains and there's thunder and lightning. And then you can also hear it in the music. It starts really like uplifting music at the start, and then it just slowly gets more quiet and sadder music, you know, like in movies where you can know what's happening because of the music. I guess it does that. I really like some of the small touches they added to make the old man like seem more like an old man. So like anytime he would sit down, he would be like out of breath completely, no matter like how much walking he just did, he's just out of breath. And then also anytime you would see him walking up a cliff or a hill, you would see him looking like he's struggling to walk up the hill. So I just like those little small touches of the game. The puzzles in this game are super cute. You move little hills around and line them up so that you can move across them. And I feel like it had like the perfect difficulty level. They were easy enough where I didn't have to leave the game and lose like the immersion to try to find a solution. But they were hard enough to where I actually had to like think about the puzzle in order to solve it. Even though the entire game, the puzzles were the same where you move the hills around, each puzzle was different enough from each other where it actually never got boring, and I really enjoyed them. My favorite part of the game was when he got on the train and he wrote it, and the puzzles after that. That was super fun. Let me know if you also enjoyed that. I feel like this game had so much potential to make me cry, and I have a feeling I know why it didn't make me cry. But personally for me, I feel like knowing that the game is sad and it made other people cry makes me try to guess where it happened and like what's gonna happen in the story. So I spend the most of the time thinking, oh, this is gonna happen at the end and that's why everybody cries, versus just like following the story blindly and not knowing what's gonna happen. So I hope for the next few games, I have 3 more. I don't really know anything about them other than that they're sad. Hopefully I can just not be thinking about that the whole time. I think the main reason I didn't cry though was because I mentioned the music gets like uplifting at the start and then it gets sadder. When the last level starts, the music is uplifting again, and then the colors are really bright as well. So when you get to the saddest part of the game has like really nice uplifting music. I'm gonna play some right here too. But like the music is too happy, and I feel like the developers intentionally gave us happy music because they didn't want us to be like completely devastated. But I kind of would have preferred it where they have really sad music and then uplifting towards the end, like the more hopeful ending. But I feel like that's why I really didn't cry. I feel like the music ruined the sadness, if that makes sense. But yeah, let's move on to the next game where I will hopefully get some tears on my face. What Remains of Edith Finch is a collection of stories about a family in Washington state. You play as Edith and explore the Finch house to find out why she's the last one in her family alive. Why? Why? Okay, besties, let's talk about What Remains of Edith Finch. The tea. Okay, so what everyone wants to know, all two people that are watching this, did I cry? No, unfortunately, no tears. Was it sad? Yes, it was depressing. It was so sad. So in this game, you are the last person alive in your family from like everybody, your great-grandparents, your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, your aunts, uncles. Just you're left, and you play as her, Edith. And you are going through the stories of everyone in your family that has died. And to do that, you kind of like relive their death. So it is depressing because you are literally reliving their death. You play, this might be a spoiler, but if you look at the timeline of like people's like family tree, you can see that there's a baby that dies, like a 1-year-old before he dies. And you play as him also right when you're gonna die, and like, why? Why am I reliving the death of a 1-year-old? Like, I don't know. It was sad, but I feel like the majority of the time, I was like, not scared, but like, it was spooky. This game was spooky, and it just felt like a horror game at first. Like the whole beginning, I was like, I hope there's no jump scares in this game because that is not what I signed up for. And it felt like something was gonna come at you. So there's like a bunch of family members that you go through their lives, and the most scarring one is probably the 1-year-old. It wasn't even like that graphic or anything, but like, it's a baby. And the other one, oh my god, I don't want to say how these people die because I don't want to spoil it too much, but like the one that was like a kid, I don't know his name. He was like the twin. He was the twin. What was his name? I don't remember. Calvin? He's like the picture that I used for like the thumbnail. I'll put it here now, but that's like his room. That man's death, I don't know. It just hit different. Oh my god. Okay. It did feel more spooky than sad at some points for me. I feel like it's just because I'm a big baby and I hate horror games. So like when I start playing it, I'm like, I really hope there's no spookiness in this game. So it might just be me. There's like this family, I am convinced they are cursed. There's like a thing they talk about whether they're cursed or not. And some people believe it, some people don't. And I think they are cursed. I think they're cursed. It's like a Final Destination kind of thing where like death can't escape them. And then they all die in different ways. Like I feel like it's like a Final Destination movie put into a game. I really enjoyed going into this blind because all I knew was that she was finding out about her family, like what happened to her family. I didn't know it was like her whole extended family. I thought it was maybe like her parents and her siblings or something like that. Like she didn't know what happened to them and she was like the last survivor and she had to go find out what happened. But maybe she was like adopted or something. That's what I was expecting. I didn't expect like going through the history of every single person and them all dying in a different way. I thought it was gonna be like one incident and then she survived, but no, it was like they all died in different ways and she was reliving all of this. Oh my god, the first story that you like jump into, because like you relive their last moments pretty much, but like the first one that you jump into, I think her name was Molly. I was so uncomfortable for her story at the end of it. I was so uncomfortable. You have to play as like, spoiler alert, it's like the first story, it's not that far in, but you jump in as her and she says that she turns into a cat, so you play as like a cat at first, and I really enjoyed that. And then you play as an owl, and I also really enjoyed that. But then by the end you play as like this slithering monster thing, and it was slimy, and you had to like move as him, and then he would like, spoiler alert, eat humans. And it was just so uncomfortable, like the sounds and like the sliminess. Like, oh, I can't. I hated it. Other than that, nothing else was like really, really bothersome. But that was my least favorite part. That was awful. Okay, so other than that, I obviously played this to see if I would cry, and I didn't end up crying, so that's kind of sad in itself. I'm gonna end up crying at the end of this video from not crying from any of these games. Hopefully we have better luck in the next one, but this game is actually really good, and I don't know if I want to recommend it. Obviously it's a good game and it gets recommended for a reason, so yes, you should check it out, but be prepared. More prepared than me, I guess. Also, it only took like, I want to say like 2 hours to finish the game, but at the end I only had 3 achievements out of 9. And when I went to look through them, only one of them was something that I like kind of messed up on. All the other ones were stuff that I have to do that I just didn't do at all. So I might go back and do those, but let's be real, that's probably never gonna get done. Okay, next up is Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. So let's go play that one now. In Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, you play as 2 brothers who set out on a journey to find a cure for their sick father. Although it is a single-player game, you control both brothers at the same time while using one hand for each brother. I'm literally speechless. It gets worse. It's not over yet. I'm already crying, and like, this stuff keeps happening that makes me want to cry more. Like right when I stop crying, I just want to cry again. Okay, so let's talk about it. I finally cried. I guess I do have a heart. I want to talk about the gameplay first, and then I want to talk about the story. And I'm gonna warn for spoilers at the end because I need to talk about it, but I'll warn you when, like, in case you want to play this game, which I do suggest you do. Playing as 2 people was actually really cool, but it was hurting my brain sometimes. My hands would get confused and I would release like the wrong key, and then one of the brothers would be dead. It got easier after a while, but there was this one part where I died so many times because I kept letting go of the wrong button, and it was awful. It was embarrassing, to be honest. The 2 brothers are attached by a rope, and you would have to hold on with one brother and swing the other brother to the next part, and then grab on and then let go with the first brother and keep swinging like that. It was so hard. It was so difficult. I was struggling a lot. It was really bad. When I read the description of the game, it tells you that the father is sick and they're looking for a cure. And since everyone was talking about how sad this game was, I was like, okay, this dad is gonna die. And since I'm so good at predicting, I'm not gonna cry. Well, I was wrong. I cried. And I'm not gonna say whether my prediction was right or wrong, but I cried. It was so sad. The whole game was really sad. It destroyed me. Like, oh my god. The start of the game, the little brother at the like grave of his mom, and then they flash back to when she dies. And he was there. He was on a boat, and like, I guess, I don't know if she fell off or what, but she like sunk in the ocean and she drowned. And we see that at the very beginning of the game. And then the big brother is like, hey, come on, we gotta take dad to the doctor. And then they start, and the tutorial is you learning how to work each brother as you're dragging the dad in like a cart to the doctor. That's the start of this game. Then you set out on like the journey and you kind of forget that it's a really sad game because you're just doing your little puzzles, climbing, controlling the two brothers, going on different journeys, trying to survive, and it's not so sad most of the game, other than the premise is sad, but like once you get into like the groove of things, you're just solving puzzles. You're not like constantly seeing their dad dying or anything like that. So you kind of forget that it's a sad game. And then it all hits you. And this is where I'm gonna add the spoiler warning because I'm about to talk about the game. And if you plan on playing this, I want you to skip ahead to where you don't see the spoiler word anymore because you do not want to get it spoiled if you want to play this. So I'm gonna give you a second. Okay. First of all, I knew something was going to happen the minute that the big brother and the little brother are following this like woman into a cave, and the little brother is like, no, stop, we can't keep following her, like we need to keep going on our journey, we need to find the cure. And the big brother's like, it's okay, we'll be fine. And then you go in and she turned out to be like the Spider Woman, and she's like, it was a trap when they go into this cave, which obviously they should have known because the cave entrance was like this big, and you have to like fight her, and when you win, she stabs the big brother and he goes straight into his gut. And I'm still thinking, okay, so obviously nothing's gonna happen to them, and you're gonna go to the cure, they're gonna find the cure, and they're gonna have to pick between saving the older brother or saving the dad. And this is why the dad's gonna die, because you're gonna go on your journey and you're gonna find the cure, so why would your dad still die? So I was like, okay, that's why it's gonna be sad, me trying to predict that's gonna happen. Then you get to where the cure is, and the little brother, this is the first time in the game that you play just as a little brother, because the big brother is so hurt that he can't climb the tree to get to the cure, so he's just sitting there, and you're climbing the tree as a little brother, and every once in a while as you're climbing you can like see the big brother who's sitting on the floor, and he's just like sitting there looking like he's dying, but he's not dead, you know. So you get to the cure and you go down and he's dead. And you get there and you just start screaming and crying, and you have the cure in your hand and you like try to get him to come back, and all of this is a cutscene, so you're not physically doing it, but he's just like pouring it into his mouth, like trying to cure him, and it doesn't work and he's dead. And then I was just like, oh my god. And that's when I like started kind of crying, like I wanted to cry at that point. But then they do like a little flash scene where like he's on the ground like dead, and it's like spinning around them, and then they show them hugging, and I was like, oh okay, maybe they just needed to wait a little bit of time. And then the cure walked in, and then it keeps spinning, and he's still on the ground dead. So that was just like in his head, and I was just like, wow. And that's what really got me to start crying, because they make you think for a second that he's like back, but he's not. And then they have a cutscene where the little brother is digging a grave. He's just digging a hole to stick his brother in. And you know what they do? They make you play as the little brother as you're dragging this man's body into this hole. And you're like moving slowly because your brother is like your big brother, he's heavy. So you're just dragging him. You're controlling him as he's dragging him. You throw him in the hole, and then you have to go to the mounds of dirt around the hole and push them on top of him. I was crying that whole time. Like, how are you gonna make me throw him in the grave? That's crazy. That was it. I was just speechless. It was crazy. And then after that, like, you're going on your little journey back to your house where your dad is, and at this point I had stopped crying because I was like, okay, take a deep breath, stopped crying. Then you get to where the water is. Okay, let's rewind a little bit. When you were leaving the village with your brother, you get to like a lake or a river that you have to cross, but you are traumatized because you saw your mother drown at the start of this game. So you don't want to swim. So your brother's like, okay, hold on to my back and I'll swim across. So you use the space bar to control the big brother, and you're using the space bar to swim. And then you're using the control right button to hold on as the little brother, so you still have to like do something for both of them. So when you get back to the village to see your dad again, and you get to the water, you can't swim. You're traumatized from it. So you're just sitting there staring at the water, and you can't swim. Every time you use your action button, nothing happens. Guess what happens? If you press the space bar, which is the older brother's action button, you start swimming. So you're like using your brother's strength at that point, and that had me crying too. That had me crying too. Oh my God. I was just like walking around in the water, and I'm like, I can't move forward. Nothing's working. He can't swim. Is there a way around this? And then I realized I pressed the space bar, and he just starts swimming, and I was just like, oh. And the rest of the game, getting to your father, all the obstacles that you did as two brothers, where like one of you had to do one thing and one of you had to do the other, you have to do as the little brother while you use the action button for the older brother. And that made me want to cry. The entire rest of the game, I'm just like crying at this point. And I'm just like, I did not expect it. I feel like that's what I really needed in order to cry in a game, is like not being able to predict the ending. And I would have never guessed that he was going to die. Like, that was crazy. And then the rest of the game, you're done at that point. You get to that. You cure your father. Your father's good. And then there's a cutscene where your father is standing in front of the grave of the mom and the new grave of the brother, and he's just crying, and he just falls to the ground just crying. It was crazy. Okay, now that you're all back from in the spoiler-free zone, we have one more game, and that is To the Moon. And Brothers did make me cry, but I wasn't sobbing. So let's see if To the Moon can do that for us. I have problems. Let's go. To the Moon is a story-driven experience about two doctors traversing backwards through a dying man's memories to artificially fulfill his last wishes. I did not expect to cry to this game after watching like 3.5 hours worth of it, and it's like the last 20 minutes and I'm bawling my eyes out. Oh my God. So I finished To the Moon, and it was my last game that I was gonna play for this, and as you might have seen, it definitely made me cry. I wouldn't say sob, but oh my goodness, it was so unexpected. The ending, crazy. So the two main characters are these two doctors, but they're not like medical doctors the way that I thought it was going to be. They have this like machine, and they can go into your brain and your memories and make changes to it. And so they're going to make changes to it to make him have his last wish, which was going to the moon. So they want to go to like his childhood memories and change them to make him want to become an astronaut or something, and then actually go to the moon. And that's not what I thought was going to be the case. I thought we were just going to go through his little memories, and I don't know how they were going to change it so that he got his last wish, but this is not what I expected. But it was really cool. The story was really cool, and I really appreciated the story. This man had a dark past, which you find out after like 2/3 of a game. This is kind of a spoiler. I don't know. I guess he blocked out part of his memory from his childhood, and you have to like unlock it in order to be able to make changes to his childhood. It was it was crazy. So there was 3 acts. The first act, you're slowly going back in time in his memory. So you start out as him as an old man, then you go back to like him still at that house where when his wife wanted to get the house, or like when they built it, and then you go back to like their wedding, and you go back further and further each time you travel in the memories until you get to like his childhood. And it was really interesting. So the first act, you're going through all of the memories until you get like locked into one spot, and then the act 2 and 3, you're trying to like figure out why he like lost the memories, and then you gain those back, and in act 3 you go back to those memories, and then it's the point where the doctors have to like fulfill his last wish by changing those memories. And act 3 it just takes a turn that you do not see coming. At least I didn't see coming, and I feel like most people didn't. And that's where I cried as soon as Act 3 started and you find certain things out. I don't want to spoil anything else, but it's just, it was so unexpected. I don't want to even talk about the details because I don't even want to risk people spoiling it, because I feel like this game is something you should play. It's pretty cheap. It's like $10 or something. And I'm sure it goes on sale because I'm pretty sure I got it on sale. And it's back from like 2011. So it probably goes on sale pretty often, you know? But it's so good. It's a lot of reading. It's not narrated at all, so you have to read every single thing. And it's a lot of memory, so there's a lot of reading. And I normally hate games where I have to read a lot. So even though this game was like a lot of reading and like mini games in between, I still really enjoyed it. And it should say that the story is really good, because I can't stand games where I'm only reading, because most of the time the stories aren't even that interesting. But this one, worth it. It was like reading a book, but like seeing it and playing through it, and it was so cool. I was hooked on this story. Like if this was a book, I'd probably read it. It was so interesting, and I really appreciate that, because now I feel like I can play graphic novels. I've just not been playing any good ones. But I actually found out this game has a sequel that came out like 6 years later, and another game which is like based on the same concept but created by the same people. And now I have those in my wish list, and they're probably gonna get bought the next time they go on sale. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I want to play the other games too. I highly recommend it. It's so good. Yeah, but I think out of the two games that did make me cry, To the Moon and Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, what got me was how unexpected the endings were. And not even the ending, but like the story or the event that happened. Because the other games I played, even though they were sad, I kind of saw them coming. So like with the old man's journey, you're talking about his wife the whole time. And so you kind of figure something's gonna happen there. And then What Remains of Edith Finch, you already know all of their family is dead, except for her. And with Brothers and To the Moon, you have no idea that this is going to happen, because in To the Moon it focuses so much on him and his family and his like house, that when you go back and you like unlock those memories, it has nothing to do with what you've been going through this whole time. And like that's crazy. So, and then in Brothers is just the I can't tell you what happens, but it's just so unexpected, and that's probably why it made me cry. So I need a good plot twist is what I've learned from this video. If you want me to cry to your game, make a plot twist that I cannot predict, and I will probably cry. If you made it this far in this video, let me know a game that made you cry in the comment section. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.